Do you have a favorite or a funny story from when you were on call?
Yeah, one of the things I always found out interesting about being an RA was you're always an RA. It wasn't something where it was like, okay, I'm an RA on call for these hours on a Tuesday. No, you're always an RA. You never know what's on the other end of that phone when it rings. You never know who's on the other side of that door when it gets knocked. Sure enough, I got a knock on my door Friday morning at 8 a.m., bright and early. I go to the door, I open it up. Who's on the other side? 2 Secret Service agents and my boss. Hi. Yeah, do you have Kevin who lives on your floor? I'm Agent Johnson. This is Agent Johnson from the Secret Service. I'm like, yeah, I think he's still in his room. He's down the hall. Well, you stay right here. We'll go knock on his door. I had no idea what was going on. My boss sits me down, has a discussion with me and says, the resident was caught depositing counterfeit $100 bills into the ATM downstairs.
One night while I was on rounds, I think on the 3rd floor of Hopkins, I noticed that there were just too many people out in the hallway. Apparently, someone had been paid a good deal of money to run around the floor, streaking. And there were people lined up from one end of the hall to the other. So I just mixed in with the crowd.
Like a Secret Service agent?
Kind of like that, you know, I was just there. And all of a sudden I heard laughter and the security door kind of flew open. And here comes this guy. And he's naked, holding nothing but a towel in front of him, and he's running down the hall. Somewhere out there, there's still a picture of me, only a few feet behind what I can only assume is the naked backside of this man running down the hall. And I would have asked for his ID, but at the time he really had no place to keep it. So we got the room number, and eventually we tracked down who it was.
The boys on the short hallway decided that they would grab their guitars and grab the girls from their side and go around the whole building trying to get a whole huge chorus. Well, little did we know that this huge chorus started also growing in instruments as well. And after a while, I kind of had to tell them to go outside and do something outside near the Orange, where the Orange used to be. Well, I guess they thought that the Orange was Weston, because they went over to Weston, and we got a call over the walkie to escort them out of Weston.
Or maybe not an on-call story, but a favorite memory.
Herb, 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 Herb. I remember in training one year, I think it was the last day of training, we played all these like hide and seek and stuff in the hall because the hall was empty, and we figured out which room lights to turn on in Wardall to spell it ISR in the lights, and went across the street and took a picture of it. And that memory of just being able to run crazy in the hall while it was empty is so, you know, I'll never forget that. And that was 11 years ago.
And if you had 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 pieces of advice for brand new paraprofessionals starting this job, what would it be?
Be yourself as best as you can. Be yourself. You've got a whole bunch of support with you.
I would say enjoy the experience. It changes you a lot, and it changes your residents a lot too. Have fun with it. I mean, be responsible, be accountable for your actions, and get to know your residents, get to know your teammates.
To take on challenges, you know, really, you know, go with the flow.
Be willing to learn. There is a temptation to say, well, I'm the RA now, and so I know everything. I can handle it. And the fact is, the most important part, I think, of the paraprofessional title is the para. You're not professional yet, and to expect yourself to handle things as a professional, I think, is expecting a little bit much of your abilities as a student.
One is to become involved with your staff and really connect with them, but don't forget that you have a life outside of the staff. It's really easy to get sucked into that world and never have contact with anyone else, and I don't think that's very healthy. The other thing is to learn to balance your time right from the beginning. You're going to have a lot of demands on you, and you need to put your studies first and your job second, but that job is above everything else, you know, your social life and your friends, so you need to plan accordingly. I also think is to start making notes of the things that you're doing now, because when you need to do your resume in a couple of years, you're not going to remember that great program you planned or that great conversation you had with a supervisor. You need to start thinking about the skills that you're developing so that you can make notes of that on your resume.
Right when you graduated, I remember you were going from where you were familiar in Boston down to New Jersey in your 1987 white pickup truck that you described as rust holding hands, and you had all this time, all these skills that you had built up as a resident advisor. What was that transition like for you?
It was difficult. I was very comfortable, and I just basically left it all behind to move to a place where I knew nobody. However, I thought that my skills as being a resident assistant really helped me out with that. because I felt that the experiences that I had prepared me for pretty much anything. That I didn't think there was anything that could be thrown my way that I wouldn't be able to handle, including picking everything up that I owned in my life, putting it in the back of a rusted old truck and driving it all the way down to New Jersey to start all over again.
And when I think back on it, it feels like a second home, like that was where I should be. And it feels like at any moment I could go back there and just be in the exact same environment I was in before.
Memory is, can you introduce it a little bit?
Well, we were doing a RA team building activity with Weston Hall, of course, and we loved Herb Jones. He was our Peabody area coordinator, and so we made up this very exciting song, and it goes like this. Herb, 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 Herb.